Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast, where we talk about everything dog. Q&As with veterinarian professionals, rescue operators, everyday topics. We cover everything dog on this podcast. So make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media on both Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again for listening. Now here's that next episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast. This is your host, Brittany, and today we are joined by Ryan. He is the CEO of Clear Path for Veterans, a 501c3 organization. So Ryan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Brittany.
So before we jump into Clear Path for Veterans and what exactly the organization does, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you landed this path on a 501c3, and then we'll jump into what Clear Path for Veterans does.
Yeah, certainly a lot to unpack there, so I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. But I landed at Clear Path by nature of my own experience. I served in the Marine Corps, and I served as an infantry rifleman deployed to Iraq a couple times during the height of Operation Iraqi Freedom. And my transition was anything but seamless. I think that seamless is one of those words we use a lot today that is kind of, it's not always, nothing is truly seamless, right? But
Right.
Navigating from the military into civilian culture, it comes with a lot of different challenges. And regardless of what plan you may have, for me personally, it just nothing came to fruition that I had thought after I left the military. I went to college and tried to do what people do and find a degree and find some employment that was meaningful to me. And, I just kept hitting these barriers. So amidst those challenges, I was struggling with my own mental health issues, post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, suffered from, losing 14 of my friends that I served with in Iraq. And I never really processed that, at least not while I was in the military. And it took me about a decade to start to get my stuff together and really figure out, what do I need to do to start to heal these broken pieces within myself.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, a friend of mine was working at Clear Path for Veterans, and he had reached out to me and said, hey, man, we're looking for a veteran that has similar experience as you do, specifically combat experience, to work with other veterans and help them navigate through these unique challenges. Are you interested? I was an arborist at the time, climbing trees and doing things that I thought were most closely resembling the hard work I had in the military. And I just said, yes, get me out of this. I would love to do that. That seems like somewhere where I could truly find purpose and reclaim some of my identity.
That's an amazing story. So first and foremost, thank you for your service. You might hear it often, but you don't hear it often enough. So thank you for your service. I know that that's a huge commitment and a big chunk of your life that you gave, and just appreciate that. And also want to take a second to recognize that you were able to see your own mental health struggles, your own personal struggles. And I think that piece, even in and of itself, is missed by so many veterans, especially veterans dealing with PTSD or other mental health conditions. One statistic that I pulled, and you might even not agree with it, is that 37 to 50% of the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans were diagnosed with a mental health condition. And that stat might be low. That might just be diagnosed, because there might be so many who haven't gone and sought any kind of help or haven't had the opportunity to seek help. So really love that you were able to recognize that, had a friend that was able to kind of steer you in the path of Clear Path. And so tell us kind of your journey. So starting with Clear Path, initially, what was your role working with other soldiers and veterans?
It's pretty multidimensional. So as a peer mentor, my job was to connect with veterans across a large geographic catchment area in New York State and meet them where they're at, physically. So I was on the road a lot, driving to veterans' homes, or whether they were homeless, meeting them somewhere out on the streets, and just sitting down and having a cup of coffee and trying to better understand their unique situation and how they got there, and really look to do a triage of what are these root causes and how can I help make you a plan to get you into a better state? So, I worked with a lot of veterans in crisis. Some of those not, very few of them that I worked with were actually like similar to myself. Not to say that I had anything put together, but at least was getting out of the military, using benefits, going to school, trying to find a career. I thought that would be more of a rule than an exception, and it just really opened my eyes to some of these veterans that are just not getting the service that they need after they've, literally gave an oath to give their life to their country, to come home and just not have the, deconditioning needed to get them back into the civilian world and be successful. Now, all the while, I came to ClearPath and I wasn't like, I got immersed into an environment that really opened my eyes in a lot of different ways. The canine side of things it comes pretty quick after my first year, but it was just eye-opening in that there are so many veterans out there that were struggling, really needing to find help, and ClearPath was such a unique solution in the model that we have. So as a peer mentor, really working with a lot of vets across the spectrum at different stages of their own journey.
And let's back up a little bit. So ClearPath does quite a lot. It's very multifaceted with respect to what they can offer, what services they offer. So can you talk to us a little bit about what exactly ClearPath is and an abbreviated version of kind of what they offer?
Yeah, 100%. So when our programs are designed, really what Melissa Spicer, our founder, was looking to do was identify the unique challenges that veterans are facing. And that wasn't just, anecdotal or subjective. It was looking at the data, really finding through, evidence-based research and statistics that were out there, like what are veterans struggling with? What barriers do they have? We saw a lot of access to benefits, barriers to employment, education, housing, post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. I mean, in 2011, when ClearPath started, there was just a lot of emerging research into what post-traumatic stress was and what potential treatments were available. And so the flagship program is our canine program. And what that does is we provide trained service dogs to veterans diagnosed with post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury. Now that I tell people often, it's really looking to find veterans that are seeking an increased desire for independence, because they may not have received a clinical diagnosis for post-traumatic stress, but still could potentially be eligible for our program for various reasons. Like you said, 37 to 40-something percent or 50% of veterans leaving the military are clinically diagnosed, but there is such a large percentage that don't go through that process or just don't receive the diagnosis, right? So I would say those statistics are low, like you said. The peer mentor program, so we do peer and family support. So we're not just serving the veteran. We feel that what's going to be best for the veteran is if we include the whole familial unit. And so we offer kids programming. We do things for spouses and caregivers. We try to create an environment that's really open and accessible for veterans and their families with little to no barrier to entry, right? So very low bar to just getting into our system and getting access to the programs that we offer. We do career placement too, through a couple different options. One is where we're actively working with service members that are active duty looking to get into K through 12 teaching fields. It's a new program called Operation Socrates. And we have a comprehensive employment program where we look to really identify like what job would be best for you. We have a matrix that we go through to help people find meaningful employment. And that's all done through peer and family support. So peer and family support, canine, and then we do wellness. Wellness is, it's all over the place, right? So we do non-clinical modalities, fitness, health, mental health. We do a lot of meditation, massage, anything that licensed practitioners are offering our community that we can then build into our model at our campus. It's pretty incredible. We have something going on every week. So there's veterans coming to our campus, and that's a whole other element in and of itself. We sit on 78 acres in the middle of, rural New York. People think of New York and they're like, you're in New York City.
Right.
No, like it's a pretty big state.
Yeah.
And it's healing in and of itself, but they can go through wellness. They can receive services from our culinary program. peer and family support, canine. So really, it's a holistic support to bring veterans into our system and identify where they're at and then drive the programs to them.
That's amazing. Yeah, you guys have thought of everything. So let's dive into the service dogs. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about how veterans can find you, but let's first talk about how do you guys find the dogs that you train, and then what does the training program look like for the dogs on your campus?
So we have a hybrid model where there are veterans coming to us with their own dogs that are interested in enrolling the dog into a service dog training curriculum. And we make that available to them the same way we would train the service dogs we have in our puppy program as well. There is a high bar to meet, right? Because not every dog is meant for that type of career. So we test the dog the same way we would test one of our own dogs that we're training throughout our program. Otherwise, so there's the owner-trainer model where vets can bring their own dog in, and then we also have this puppy development program. We are an Assistance Dogs International accredited organization, and they have a cooperative breeding program that has really looked into the science, the genetics, and the health of service dogs, and what could they do to work towards producing high-quality service dogs. And in my own experience, so the model that we started on was primarily shelter, which can be absolutely successful.
Right.
There's a lower rate of success because you really never know what kind of trauma or history, behavioral or otherwise, that you're working with. And we find it's critically important that when a veteran reaches out to us finally, whenever that time may be, and they say they think they need a service dog, that we have to, it's our responsibility to give them the best dog possible that's going to live a long, happy, healthy, working life. So we do genetic testing, we do hips, eyes, elbows, heart, just everything we possibly can to ensure that the dog isn't going to be an added stress to their life because they have to put the dog on a specialized diet or do things that are outside of what would be typically required in a service dog partnership.
Now, let's say a veteran reaches out and they have their own dog that they want you to train or they want to inquire with respect to training. Are there certain guidelines already in place for that, like certain breeds, ages? Do you have like a minimum standard when they apply?
No breed restrictions. So my thought process is if the dog demonstrates that they can do the work, then they have a shot at going through the training. So it's a pretty low bar. I mean, if there's like significant dog arousal reactivity or lunging at the end of the leash or fear or extreme inhibition, confidence issues, it's best that they know up front, like, it's not the right career for this dog.
Right.
Age, typically under 3 is best for us. You can teach an old dog new tricks, but, like for the type of training that we're enrolling these veterans and their dogs into, it's a 6-month minimum intensive process. And it takes all of that time to get to where we're going. And we're evaluating every week, every month to make sure that we're meeting the requirements and the bar to qualify this dog as a fully trained service dog out of our program. So it's not easy. I mean, but I tell people often too, just come into the training without the intention of this dog becoming a service dog, because you're going to get a lot more out of it. And the training itself, in my opinion, is extremely healing. You'll learn a lot. What I also tell people often is dogs are like the best representation of your inner emotional state. And it took my own experience going through the program to understand that and to really look at, okay, why is my dog showing hyperarousal and showing some reactivity towards people coming into my space? All the while I'm like, well, no, it's obvious because I'm the same way, and whatever's going on in me physiologically or biologically is triggering my dog. And that was like one of my initial prompts to change some of those, I don't want to call them character flaws, but things within myself that were really hardwired and had really, carved out neural pathways that were hard for me to change. But it was like the first indicator that I got to do something about this, or this dog's just going to be a hot mess like I was.
So let's say they apply, looks like the dog could be a fit. Would the next step be for them to get to the campus in New York for the vet testing and the different kind of the other testing that they go through? What would that look like for them?
So two different pipelines. Again, we do work with breeders locally and nationally to bring dogs into our program. We have 40 right now that we train from puppy all the way to fully trained service dog.
Hmm.
And we ensure that they meet every benchmark possible. Now, and we can place those dogs nationally, anywhere across the country. If somebody's entering into our owner trainer program, they have to reside within at least an hour and a half of our campus because of the extended timeline. It's rare that somebody can live outside of a commuting distance and get to our facility as much as they need to go through that whole training process. But yes, I mean, when they apply, we go through basically a needs and readiness scale. We try to verify, is there actually a need for a service dog? And we have a licensed clinical social worker that does an in-depth interview to look at different things like, what coping mechanisms have you developed in your own personal treatment? How long have you been in treatment? Things like active suicidal ideation. These are all areas that we need to bring some attention to before we enroll a veteran to our service dog program. Because this needs and readiness balance, it needs to be in balance, right? Like you may have the need, but your readiness may not be there because there are certain things that you should be doing to develop additional coping mechanism before we add a dog into your environment. On the other hand, perhaps there's just no need, right? Like I have a full-time job, I'm going to the grocery stores at normal time of day, I go to social gatherings, my life is not going to receive any significant change by adding a service dog into it. Then, we have a separate conversation. So we have a process that we go through with every veteran that really helps us better understand, is there need? Are they ready? If those two boxes are checked, then we'll enroll them into our program. And if it's owner trainer, again, just that radius requirement. But if it's through our puppy development program, literally anywhere across the country, they can apply and we'll fly them to our campus, put them up in a hotel for 10 days where they go through an intensive training timeline.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask if they were outside of kind of that radius, what the plan was. So yeah, getting them there for 10 days, that makes sense. And normally whenever they come in, do you already have a dog ready for them or do you wait for them to get there to see, oh, is this dog going to fit better? Is this dog going to fit?
We'll have about 2 or 3.
Okay.
Compatibility is huge. I tell people often it's like I can't, there's no Match.com version of how we screen people. I have to
Right.
see them with the dog to
Hmm.
best assess if there's compatibility there and there's hope for like a really meaningful relationship, which we can pick up on within the first 3. I mean, I tell people too, it's like you build a relationship with a dog within 10 minutes, but some dogs respond differently. And most of what we're doing is working on the human end of the leash than we are on the dog end of the leash.
Right.
But we'll have a couple dogs that we have trained and specifically built in or selected based on the task that they know that are aligned with the unique challenges that veteran's facing.
Hmm. And a lot of these veterans, it's PTSD, it might be maybe general depression, even without a clinical diagnosis. Like, what are you seeing as maybe like the top, I'd say 3 reasons they are seeking out a service dog?
So there's a lot in terms of like symptomatic PTSD, traumatic brain injury, general comorbidities that would indicate somebody has an issue with just being out in public or struggling with their sleep schedule, sleep hygiene, but also like people take care of their dogs better than they take care of themselves sometimes. It's oftentimes, actually, I would say. And the partnership, I believe, is far greater than any specialized tasks that we train these dogs to do. They can do all of this work, and certainly things like depression, anxiety, nightmares, disassociation, like we train the dogs to actually physically cue on that and respond with technical behaviors, which is great. But again, the fruit of all of the training that we do really comes through with the relationship. Like, what's life like with your dog after 3 months of being back in your community? What are you doing differently?
Hmm.
And we start to see major improvements in quality of life, decreased isolation, symptoms are going down. And we check in. We check in monthly for the first 6 months and then yearly after that. And as needed, right? Like, we have a lifelong support available to them anytime. And it's just incredible. I mean, the things that people have said in their testimonies about, the difference between me being here and not is the fact that I have this dog counting on me. And that mutual relationship it's incredible.
Are there any success stories that really stand out for you? Any feedback you've gotten from someone in particular? Is there anything that you can think of?
Yeah. So in 2022, when we achieved our accreditation with ADI, I had a gentleman reach out to me on LinkedIn, and he's a Vietnam vet. And he had said that he's been out for over 53 years. He's been struggling for a very long time. And he was really seeking out potential service dog placement. And he had reached out to 3 different organizations. And each of them said it's going to be like 3 to 5 years before they're able to place him with a service dog. And I heard him out. I talked to him back and forth via direct messaging on LinkedIn. I said, why don't we get on a call? And, it just so happens that we're just starting to cross this bridge to going national. And I would love for us to be able to support you through this. So we had a call. We had him go through our application process. He was approved. And we flew him out for 10 days of training. And, I mean, this guy was in tears almost the whole time. And he was just so joyful about the process and going through the training and the relationship that he built with this dog. The testimony he gave in front of our whole staff, and we were just so grateful to have been able to do this for him. And we brought his spouse out too, and they continued to reach out to me and just express the gratitude. But he's just said, in 53 years, I've received nothing like this. It's just all of the mental health treatment, the clinical work, which is important. But this was like keystone for him to take these next steps towards healing.
That's amazing. I mean, after all that time, I'm glad that he found you guys, because I think so many would have given up or lost hope. And so I think that's amazing that you guys were able to help him. And the fact that they keep reaching out, that's really a testament to what you guys are doing. So we talked a little bit about the career placement, peer mentoring, family support programs. Let's talk about a vision for the future. So you guys are looking to expand your campus, right?
Yeah, so we're expanding digitally and physically. This has been a long time coming. So we're able to place between 12 and 15 dogs a year right now with the timeline it takes and the number of staff that we have in the space, to be honest with you. I mean, we're working, the multidimensional approach that we have at ClearPath somewhat limits how much we're able to do within each program in some respects, right? So we have a 30 by 30 foot training room. We have a puppy development center and kennels. But we've reached the plateau of how much we can actually do. And so we've put on the board, like, we'd like to expand our campus, develop a dedicated canine training facility, and also put some cabins on our facility as well, just so that we can enhance the experience and train more dogs and have better access to care for the dogs and everything else. So it's super dog centric and veteran centric, and we're super excited about it. I mean, it's going to be able to triple the amount of service dogs that we're able to place in any given year.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Are there any large fundraising initiatives for that, or any way that the public can help you guys reach that goal?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to help us is to reach out and get on a phone call with me. But we do need help. We are looking to launch a capital campaign in the very near future. So the campaign's going to be publicized, and there's going to be giving options to do that. We're going to provide naming rights to those that decide to partner with us and sponsor some elements of this building. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can support that aren't just financial either. Sometimes we're just looking for in-kind donations and support for the service dogs. So we've worked with a lot of different companies that have offered things like toys, bones, crates, and that kind of thing. So really, no matter how small or how large, it takes a village to do what we're doing, and we couldn't do it without community support locally and nationally.
And where can the listeners find you on social media, website, all of the above?
We have all the social handles, so LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, probably more than I'm listing. The website for sure, and again, like call the office. I tell people all the time, you're going to call and you're going to get somebody to talk to. I sit right next to the front desk, and if you ask for me, I will gladly take the call and be happy to share more about what we do with you.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for everything that you do. Excited for you guys to continue to grow. And for anyone listening, please make sure you check them out on their website and on social media.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Canine Culture Podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media. If you have any recommendations, any topics that you'd like to hear, if you know of any guests that would be good for the show, or if you yourself want to be a guest, please reach out to us. Send us an email at canineculturepodcast@gmail.com, or send us a direct message on social media. Thank you for listening, and please share this with any of your dog-loving friends.